Hello and welcome to Bags of Action. My name's Steve, my co-host is Pete.
Hi.
We are back for now. We said we do this every now and then, so we're doing it now.
Yes.
Today we are talking about a special film. It is the 2022 release, Prey, which we both watched on Disney Plus, I believe.
Yes.
And this is the prequel, sequel, something to...
I think it's a Well, it's the fifth Predator movie. If you don't count the Aliens versus one.
Sure. So it's
the fifth straight Predator movie.
But it is timeline.
It is a prequel.
Yes, according to the kind of historic timeline, it's set before the events of the original Predator.
A long time before, 1719. If you can do a prequel, they've really done a prequel.
Yes.
And of course, if it wasn't for the film Predator, this podcast would not exist.
It's true.
Because Geek Syndicate did a special about Predator, which we were two of the numerous guests, and those numerous guests started a podcast about action movies inspired by that conversation.
Yep.
And then everyone else left. It's a bit like Predator, except two of us survived.
And we're here, and we're ready, and we're...
And I quite like Predator. This is my cable Predator buddy. This is my Funko Pop Predator.
Wow.
And this is my If It Bleeds, We Can Kill It Lego picture. So, yeah, I do quite like Predator. So
here's my Predator tattoo. No, okay.
Yeah. I've been thinking about getting a tattoo. Maybe
I'm a Predator.
Maybe we'll get a Predator tattoo.
Get matching Predator tattoos. Look.
I don't think you want just the word Predator written on your body. I don't think that's a good idea.
I was going to go for the mask.
Yeah, it should be something symbolic
rather than just actual creepy.
Yeah,
rather
that makes sense. So yeah, Predator is, depending which way the wind's blowing, on certain days it's my favorite film. So on those days,
wait, favorite action film or favorite film?
Just film. On certain days.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Although someone described it this week on Twitter as a guilty pleasure.
No,
I don't know them, and I found out they were actually an actor that had an IMDb page, so I was going to give them a load of abuse, but I didn't. I just ignored it.
Well restrained.
Nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me at all.
We've grown as podcast hosts
and as humans. That's why we had to have some time off.
Yeah,
so it was all a restraining order. That's what really happened.
It. Yeah. You did an interview with Michael Ironside, and he said, "No, that's enough of that."
True. That's true. He gave me some good life advice.
Did.
So I guess Predator is a classic. Predator 2, I think, is a good film.
I think it's good.
Yeah.
Not great, it's good.
There's a hipster thing of going, actually, Predator 2 is better than Predator, but they're wrong.
They are wrong.
The Predator versus, just to put it out there, if you're listening and you think that, you were also wrong. Yep. The Predator versus Alien films are very patchy. They've got moments.
They're not bad.
They've got moments. They've got the Lance Henriksen factor in at least one of them. So
yes.
And then Predators was all right, but not great.
So it had the potential to be interesting. The fact that you've got, we're obviously going to spoil Prey, and we're going to spoil all of the Predator films. If you haven't seen them, then pause and come back. So the idea in the original Predator is, they just happen to be soldiers in the jungle that get caught up in this thing, and it's hunting them because they're worthy prey. And when you get to the idea of predators, you've got this group of the best of killers that have been sort of indirectly assembled to take on this thing, or were they gathered? I don't even remember.
I remember. I can't. One of them's come out of prison. They're put on this planet.
But were they collected and then put on this planet so that the Predator had something of interest to fight? I
think so, but I can't remember if it was by the Predator or if it was humans did it as a way to take out the Predator.
Maybe. So they're all a bit different. So like one of them's a serial killer. One of them's come out of prison. One of them's like some kind of cowboy Yankee. It's Walton Goggins playing up the kind of stereotypical yeehaw crazy man that he's done a few times. And for some reason, I love him, but for some reason, Lawrence Fishburne is running around as a man who's been hiding there. Anyway. Yeah. It's like the pigeon man in Matrix. Sorry, not in Matrix. And John Wick, he just turns up, and I'm like, what? Anyway,
I remember thinking it was not very good, and then I read actually the graphic novel adaptation, which I preferred more than the film, which is rare. That doesn't happen. A Dark Horse one, I think. And then I hate to say it, but possibly the worst of them all, the most recent one before this, The Predator.
Actually, I've not seen because I heard such terrible things about it. I heard everyone was like, it is appalling. I'm like, well, I might have a quick look. And then was like, do not watch it. It is that bad. I'm like, oh, so
the completist in me is starting to get a twitch.
It's a good thing I don't have OCD.
But at least this is set in 1719. So I guess actually chronologically it's all over the shop, because Predator 2 is kind of
1980s, 90s.
But it was set in the future at the time, wasn't it? No, it came out in the early 90s, but I think it was set in the future. It was set like 2012 or something. Which is obviously now isn't the future. I understand that.
It's
what? Predators was a long way in the future because it was I think it's in space, and then the Predator was gonna. But I think what they've tried to do in the other side, the Predator, first Predator film, the ensemble cast and a team of people works really well.
Yeah.
Predator 2, it's a kind of similar vibe with
Danny Glover.
Yeah. Predators again. Oh, it's an ensemble of people. The Predator, you haven't seen it, but
spoil away. I don't mind. I don't care.
But they similarly kind of put people together. And so there's a bus trip, which is supposed to be like the helicopter trip, and then it's like because I was going to say it at the end, but I'll say it at the start. It doesn't matter. The things there's three things that make the Predator special. Three very different things. Okay. One is the premise: the alien coming from space that can be camouflaged and hunts people as trophies.
Yep.
That is very clever as a high concept.
Yep.
The second thing in the first movie is the ensemble cast, the way they are with each other, the kind of army team, and their relationship with each other, and some of the lines they have, and just the way that they interact together. And the third thing is it's an Arnie movie.
Yes.
And I would watch all three of those if they were independent things. If there was a film with this premise, I would have watched it. I'd watch anything with Arnie in, to be honest.
Yep.
I'd watch that. If you took away the Predator and Arnie, I'd still watch it as a buddy kind of army movie. So I think what they tried to do then with the other Predator films is to go, well, we haven't got Arnie, but what worked? Although actually Arnie was supposed to be in The Predator, but he wasn't. He was supposed to have a
really
cameo in it, I believe.
That's Dutch.
Yes. But here, they've kind of gone. What I like about this movie, we're very, very early to talking about it, but we haven't got all those things. So let's not pretend we have. Let's not pretend.
No.
Let's go, well, actually, what we have got is the high concept.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then they've kind of built something similar enough that you go, oh, yes, I'm definitely watching a Predator movie, but different enough that you don't go, I'm not watching yet another rehash of the first film done not very well. I'm watching something different. So I think setting it so far before, there's been fan films before. I think we did an episode with Gavin, I believe, about a medieval Predator thing.
That's right.
I once worked up a comics pitch, but never actually sent it to Dark Horse for a book called RSVP with my friend Simon Wyatt, which was Ronin Samurai Vikings Predator, which was,
nice.
It probably would sell now. I shouldn't have said it out loud. No.
Let that out.
I do have a feeling that Disney are very good at going, people watch this, we'll do more of it. So I have a feeling that we might be getting ones in different time periods.
There'll be like Predator on the High Sea Master and Commander. There'll be Predator in World War One, running around the trenches. You're gonna get this. So the interesting thing is that we said it's chronologically set before the first Predator film, but from that first film, Anna talks about the fact that her grandma had said, "The hunter, it comes when the weather's really hot." And you're like, okay, so in that first film, there's that tiny seed planted in the script that said, "This is not the first occurrence. This hunter comes to Earth whenever the seasons are really hot and hunts men." What she says, she says, "The beast that takes men as trophies," or something. It's something like there's a very specific line that kind of set you like, oh shit, right, that's what it is. So this works as a premise. The other thing I liked about it is they haven't got Arnie and they didn't try to do it. So they kind of went in the opposite way and they said, we're going to strip it back. So the script is really simple in some ways. It's really kind of boiled down. It's really basic. And in some ways, you could almost have it as like a silent movie and it wouldn't make a lot of difference because the Predator doesn't speak. The main characters don't speak a lot. They speak a little bit to communicate and kind of tell the audience some of what's going on. But if the whole film was purely in Comanche and there wasn't an English dub and there wasn't English subtitles, you'd still know what was going on. And you could watch it.
I've only watched the English language version, but I believe you can watch a Comanche version with subtitles. But I'm guessing you could turn the subtitles off, just watch it in Comanche.
But like if you'd never seen, so say you're French or German or Spanish and you got to watch it and you just, there isn't any other subtitles, no, there isn't anything. And it's just like, you'd be fine. You wouldn't need any of that stuff because you can follow it. If you didn't speak the language, you can just be like, because you know enough of what's going on, you can see it. It's a very visual thing. It's like the early comedy films were, silent films. You didn't need to hear the words. You could see what was going on. And this is a very visual, very visceral, physical action film. That I think this Predator's design, this kind of, do they call it a primitive predator or like something like that, is one of the most interesting designs I've seen in a long time. I watched one of the videos with the VFX people about this. Have you seen this? So the kind of like the creators were talking about how they wanted to make something different and how they wanted to make him, Originally, they said, right, we want him to be a more basic predator. And they originally came up with something that was a bit more kind of really, really kind of like caveman type. And they're like, well, he's too clunky, he's too big, he's too bulky. We want something that's still interesting. And the guy who plays the predator, called Dane DeLegro, I think.
DeLegro, I think. Yeah, he's been in Walking Dead. And
so he's like 6'9".
Yeah.
So he's a big dude, and it shows you like him in the suit, which is basically a full-on skin of the predator's skin over the top of him, and then he has the mask which kind of pulls on over his head and stuff. And they're talking about, okay, they went with different designs, but they still wanted something that looked terrifying, that was more primitive, that they could change some of the features and make him more basic, and that they didn't make the technology too advanced because it's set in, what did you say,
1719.
There you go. So that if he's just got a laser fucking thing and nuclear stuff like in the other one, well, there's no competition. It's too easy. He can just kill everybody. So they've taken it back several centuries. And even though he still arrived in a spaceship, his technology is slightly more basic, so the other people have a chance. And I think that's why it was a good film, because he wasn't absolutely invulnerable. Like the final Predator in the first film, it takes a lot to take him out. Even when Arnie's beating him, he's not really that messed up without having a tree fall on his head.
No, and I think there was a little bit, and I'm sure there are fanboy trolls somewhere going, there was a woman and she was on her own and she did this and she shouldn't be allowed to do that because it took Arnie, and Arnie's big and strong. And there's a little bit of me that did not fall into that, but there was a part of me was like, well, she just takes it out so well at the end. But you go, hang on a second, this is hundreds of years before. We don't know how much, although there is, there's cave paintings that they've been before this. But like you said, it's a simpler version and it evolves. So every time one of them goes there, they probably learn from what's happened. Although they've died, they probably have some way of getting that information or logs or whatever of what's happened, and then they get better. So I think I bought that. I watched it twice, I'll be honest. The first time, I fell asleep. Now, there's nothing to do with the film. That's to do with my age. I also have someone to get up in the night to have a wee. So it was, and I kind of watched it in bits, and I was like, yeah, it's all right. But I watched it a second time specifically for this conversation. Yep. And I was much more, I got it, if that makes sense. I think the first time was like, right, I'm a Predator fan, impress me. And then,
come on.
And then, yeah, come on, but you can't. And this time I was like, let's just watch it. And I was like, oh, do you know what? It's really clever. I love the fact as well that the director, what's his name? Dan Trachtenberg.
Trachtenberg, yeah. He's done
Cloverfield Lane, yeah. Yep. And he's done some Black Mirror and The Boys episodes as well. Yep. But the whole inspiration for this, because he co-wrote it with a guy called Patrick Asen. But it's interesting, they've not really written much. Patrick Ason's usually a producer. He's written, I think, one episode of Treadstone and one episode of Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan.
Nice.
Which, if he's written one episode, it probably means he was a producer on the show and did an episode.
Uh-huh.
He was also a consultant on the show Legion, which the star of this film is also from.
Right.
Amber Midthunder. And Trachtenberg himself, the films he's directed before, he hasn't written, but he's only written shorts. So they're coming to it not as... the last film was Shane Black. You'd think that should have been amazing, right?
Yes.
But here, their inspiration was Billy. They basically went, let's take the essence of Billy. Let's take the fact that he was a tracker, Native American tracker, hunter, more in tune with nature than the others, more suspicious of it, believed the mythology earlier than them all, and also knew when it was his time to die. And all of that stuff has been packed into this.
Yeah.
But I think setting it in with Native Americans, setting it in a culture which is all about hunting. That's their life. That's that you generate your worth by being able to hunt.
Yep.
Is a stroke of genius, because I think there's a ritual they have to go through, and that's why the main character, she wants to become a hunter. But you have to hunt something that's hunting you to get that, say, qualification, to get like a diploma, Native American diploma.
Yeah.
And it's like, obviously they think it's going to be the lion, they think it's going to be a bear, but ultimately it's the ultimate predator. So it's a predator whose prey are a team of people that hunt all the time. It's in the wilderness where you keep seeing the food chain, you keep seeing different predators and prey throughout the movie.
Yep.
And I just thought that was really, like, they've got to the essence of the high concept.
Yeah.
And focused on that, like we say, not finding the next bodybuilder to be another Arnie.
It's true. Like, so the Predator himself was pretty amazing, and he fights a number of people in the film, not just the Comanche and Naru, but a bunch of others, and a bunch of beasts and animals, as we've said. But what I really like is the fact that he is a more primitive version, but he's still incredibly badass. He's like so good. And I loved some of the fights. Now, in the first Predator film, one of the, not the problems, but there was a lot of mystery around it. They were trying to reveal the Predator until as late as possible, so you didn't know what it was. And as we know from the making of, originally it was a giant pink thing with Jean-Claude Van Damme, and they changed the design and blah, blah, and reshoots. Anyway, we don't need to worry about that in this film. But at this point in the franchise, and 20, 30 years on from whatever it was, then we know what it looks like. So we get to see more of him more clearly. And when he takes his cloak, his invisibility cloak, essentially camouflage off, we get to see him properly. So the other difference in this film, which you did get in some of the more modern ones, is we get to see him fight in the open against other people.
Yeah.
But their technology is a lot more primitive. However, he still has some amazing fights. There's that scene where, for some random reason, there's ash everywhere, and there's like a burnt forest and all these stumps and everything. And you see him pinging off all these tree stumps, and it's incredible. And then he lands and just takes out all of these French trappers and stuff and hunters. And there's like loads of them, and they try to trap him with this like a second wave of them. Yeah. And the way he takes some of them out is so nasty. But the fights are amazing. The choreography was remarkable.
I think one of the things that put me off the first viewing was that I was like, because in many ways, the original Predator is a haunted house movie.
Yes.
You're working through an environment, and what is that thing? What's the thing that's killing us all one by one? And it's a very tried and tested formula. Yep. Like you said, they couldn't do that. So I was like, well, he should be hiding in trees. Why is he walking around? Why is he fighting that wolf? What's going on? I don't want to see this much of the Predator. But then watching it the second time, I just thought, well, no, he's in a different environment, in a different way. And maybe that's what he learned. Maybe one of the things they learned was hide. I mean, you are camouflaged, but even so, maybe hide a bit more.
More modern human weapons are more dangerous than fire ones. Hang on.
Yeah.
Ready? It's like, you're dead. You're already dead.
No, exactly. And it's like there's some really clever things, again, that I didn't notice first time. So she's so keen to prove herself as a hunter. And then her mother's got this great line. She goes, the ritual is not about proving you can hunt. It's about proving you can survive. And then you suddenly go, oh, yeah, it's, you're only hunting to survive, which is why they have such a problem with the French people coming and skinning the buffaloes because they're
trappers.
not living off the land. They're doing it to get the hides.
Yep.
So they're not doing. Whereas the Native Americans, the Comanche, are living off the land. It's all about survival. There is a natural order of things. One thing eats the next thing, and they are learning to hunt so that they don't die.
Yes.
And it's much more kind of primal. It's much more, in the first movie, they're essentially tricked into being part of this whole situation, really, by Dylan, because he kind of knows what's going on, or certainly knows that something. He knows there's a risk.
Yeah.
Whereas this is just, it's kind of turned up in their territory, in their environment, which I think there's a different kind of power dynamic, and it is. And I think the fact that Dakota Beavers, who plays the brother, has not acted in anything before this is quite remarkable, because he's really good. Like it's again, there's, like you say, there's not a lot of dialogue, but actually, if there's not a lot of dialogue, then you've really got to sell things. Well, you can't over exert like in the theatre because you look a bit weird. So there's a lot of subtlety in like the way he looks at her, and like he's saying she's not good enough, but really he's kind of protecting her, and then their roles kind of twist. And the scene with him when he comes back on the horse and the way he fights it, but then again, a bit like Billy, he gets the point of knowing that he has to be sacrificed for her. And then she flips on its head, and the whole prey thing is like the predator becomes the prey, which again is really clever. She's doing on her terms. Yeah. And having spent years watching films with quicksand in them, and it's finally made a comeback.
Well, it's kind of quick mud, really, wasn't it? It wasn't even sand. It was like a swamp kind of thing that she sank in and thought, oh, well, she's done for. And the axe on a rope kind of thing, boomerang thing, that was pretty cool. I did like that. I like that as a weapon that she used against him. But the other thing is, I said the Predator fights the French trappers, but he fights a bunch of other people. So yes, she does defeat him. I'm not diminishing that in any way, but he sustains a number of wounds from a bunch of other people. So everyone's like, how could she defeat him by herself?
He's quite badly bitten by a bear. He's quite badly bitten, I think, by the wolf. You quite often see him.
He's shot at least once or twice. Yeah. He's been, French trappers kind of hit him a bit. Someone else attacks him and he has to use a kind of medical equipment on himself. Not like the old one, but similar. So he does have like a number of wounds. So he's not 100%, but she still works out how to defeat him. She takes his mask off with the gun and works out that that'll stop him from using his most dangerous weapon, which are the spikes. And then she, puts that to advantage. But he fights a lot of different people through the film, and then finally it's kind of her and him one-on-one at the end, which was a really good fight. Because he's lost an arm. Let's not forget that.
Yes, there's one of that in some ways is one of the throwbacks, because there are moments in here. There's some Easter eggs that I really liked, and there's one Easter egg that I really didn't like, and I bet you can guess which one that is. So there's a few things in here. So when she's hiding from the bear, which I think the bear revealing the predator to her with the bear, I thought was really clever.
Yep.
The way she hides from the bear is very similar to how Arnie hides from the predator in the first movie. The way she hides under the
it's kind of like a wood pile in the river.
You've got a moment near the end where the predator is in the mud, quicksand, and his head slowly comes up, which is very similar to Arnie coming out of the water.
Yep.
You get one of the other members of the Comanche loses an arm in a very similar kind of Dylan kind of moment, and then the predator itself loses an arm. Maybe that's why they developed a fetish for arm removal. But then there's one thing, and they didn't need to do it, and they shouldn't have done it, and I'm annoyed with them. In the same way I was annoyed when Han Solo in Solo explained why his name was Solo. They didn't if it bleeds, we can kill it, is an iconic line.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
But her brother did not need to say it. Now, she said, I don't think we can kill it. And all he had to say was, it's been in... He could have a variation on that. Any other wording, I'd have gone, okay, well, that's a nice coincidence. That's a nice moment. But in 1719, I'm going to say something. And in 1987, someone else in the same situation will say it word for word. And you might as well go, hey, don't forget this is a movie. Don't forget this is a film. Someone wrote this. I hated that moment a lot.
All right, my one nitpick of the film, because we're on the nitpick section. Right. There's she knows herbs, she knows medicine, she's learnt from her mum. She's a healer predominantly, and that's what they want her to be, not a hunter. So she knows about the different flowers and things. When she finds this one of the other Comanche who's been injured, she gives him some of this flower that slows his heart down so that he won't bleed to death from his injuries, and they can transport him home and he will survive. Yeah. And they do get him home and he lives because of what she did. Later on, when she finds the French trapper who's had one of his feet cut off, she gives him some of the same flower to try and to slow the bleeding down, and it lowers his body temperature, right? So it slows his heart, and so when the predator comes and he looks over, he pretends to play dead, which was really I like that moment when he's just lying there going, you can just see his eyeballs moving, he's pretending to be dead, and the predator can't see him until he twitches or something, and then it kills him, and it just stabs him through the
Is that the leader, the beard guy?
No, it was the one who'd lost his foot.
But she removed
in the camp.
Okay, because
remember. So the bit I don't like is she takes some of the same flower during the fight early on, so that it can't see her. Right? She wouldn't be able to move nearly as quickly. Like, how can she shake it off just like that? If it slowed her heart down really, and the purpose is that it lowers her body temperature, then surely she'd be just like really sluggish and won't be able to move. And I'm like, I get it. It's the whole thing of the mud, and then it can't see them without its mask and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you there again, it's like the kind of Han Solo. It's like that if it believes you can kill it, stretching it a little bit. I'm not sure you needed it. It was a little bit.
Yeah.
You're stretching the bounds of my incredulity, even though this is a fantasy film. There's a little bit of world building. I'm poking a hole in there.
Yeah, I don't know what you mean. I mean, what things I liked that are kind of contrasted with that is she's a really good tracker, again, a bit like Billy. And they said, oh, you're a good tracker, just do that. Or like you say, she's a medicine woman.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like, but there's also this thing that her brother said, he's mock surf, like not seeing stuff. And he's like, later, he's like, you actually see the things no one else sees. You're the one piecing bits together. And it's almost like, well, actually, it's all these skills. A pure hunter couldn't have survived, or they didn't.
Yep.
None of the pure hunters survived. But someone who's a hunter and a tracker and a medicine person and who's almost a detective, who's able to piece together what's going on. Somebody with a slightly broader view is the only person that could walk away from it, which I thought was good.
So we need to kind of talk about one of the best members of the cast, who I don't know if he got an acting credit, but from looking through the cast, I don't see his name. I don't see him described. I don't see him kind of honored in any way. And this is, of course, Naru's dog.
Yes.
Who's basically the MVP of the whole film.
I think you're right.
Like, if it wasn't for him, she'd be dead. A couple of times he attacked the predator, he attacked the hunters, he distracted the bear.
Distracted the bear.
Yeah, and it's like this dog is amazing. So whoever trained the actual dog on the film, brilliant, well done, amazing job, fantastic. But beyond that dog was incredible, fearless, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it did exactly what you'd hope a dog would do.
Protected her.
Exactly, the relationship was good. It was solid.
Yeah,
maybe the dog.
He got taken prisoner at one point and she had to break him out. That was, loyalty. That was good. Good. When she got taken by the French hunters. So that's all very good. But he was amazing.
He was
so good. So good.
And there's another little moment I like near the end, because she kind of talks about how she's been overlooked and underestimated by everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Like by all the other, particularly it's a male-led, well, it's a male hunting society, isn't it? So she has to have that battle a little bit. But also, the reason her brother's died really is he seems a threat, whereas she isn't, because she hasn't got a weapon.
She didn't raise a weapon.
Just raise a weapon to him. So she kind of at the end, when she kind of, it's a little bit like Arnie kind of goes primal, doesn't he? In the first movie, he covers himself in mud and he kind of throws his gun away, and he's like, and it's again, it's Bill I've been saying, it's similar enough to that to be similar, but not so close to it that it's a blatant retread.
Yeah.
So, but she almost does. She's almost like, well, I've got to think differently. So, well, actually, you've underestimated. To me, it's like she's the invisible one, not the predator.
Clever, very clever.
He's supposed to be. His big thing is being invisible, but that's why she can be the predator and he can become the prey, because she's also invisible, like he is.
Oh,
yeah. Layers, man, layers. More layers than a good lasagna.
Excellent, well done, nice line.
So there you are. And she's great in the film as well. Like the brother and sister in general, just both of them. There's the physicality of the role, but there's also like the performances I think are really good. And there's one scene we haven't mentioned actually I thought was really tense. Is the long grass scene.
Yes.
When they come out of the forest.
Yeah.
And like, we've got away from him. And then sees the red dots. And then he's chipping through the grass, but you can't see him, and that's quite scary.
You just see the grass parting. It's like a fucking shark going through it, it's parting it, and like that is scary. That's really, really scary.
I think as well. I was saying like she changed the end, but she becomes very ruthless. Like she's willing to cut off the legs of the leader of the French people, and use him as bait.
Yes,
that's quite. And make sure he picks his gun up and she knows he's dead before. That's cold, but they deserve it. But it's cold, and I like that. And there's times when she's almost treated by the other Comanche like the female character in the first movie, where they're almost dragging her along behind them. She's in the. There's a little mirror, I think, again there, which I think works quite well, because the first film is such a testosterone fest. It's like
the chopper scene, and sexual tyrannosaurus like me,
which I think is why some people
over the top.
Which could be why people say it's a guilty pleasure. It could be why people don't like it. They think it hasn't aged well. But like again, flipping that on its head, it's a female.
But that was knowingly poking fun at all of that and over the top. And if people don't get that, that's on them being a bit dim, not the fact that they'd actually believed any of that. So, anyway. There's nice touches in the film, like we see a snake try to bite the predator, and that's just pointless because it doesn't work, but it slams into this invisible force, so it kills the snake. I like the bit where he killed a wolf and we see it reduce its head down to the little skull thing, and he hooks it on his belt. That was really nice. I enjoyed that.
Picking the bear up above his head and then being revealed by the blood, that was clever.
That was very, very good. Yeah. So it's not that his camouflage has failed. It's the fact that he's just gutted a bear. But there again, the bear bit him twice and like punched him and knocked him over at one point. I thought, ooh, and the bear gets him on in the water and the bear's on top of him. I thought, that's not good. That can't be good for him. But then he picks it up and like, okay, so the bear is really, really, really powerful and strong, but the predator is way better.
Never happened in Gentle Ben.
If Skippy had been there, he may have had a different story as well. And what about Flipper? You say, get all the childhood animals gathered together.
Well, the dog was a bit list hobo-esque. There was a little bit of that energy.
And what's the other dog? The dog show. Forgotten now. The one with the kid. Anyway, some of them.
But that's on the postcard.
Yes.
There's another little moment at the end. You know the flintlock pistol that she gets given at the end? That makes an appearance in Predator 2.
It's got a name on it, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Go on. What's the name?
Mike Harrigan gets given it in Predator 2. So it can't be his name, but whatever it is, it's a reference. Again, massive coincidence, but it's weird how my brain works. I can kind of handle this gun turned up in a place, but I can't handle someone saying the exact same words as someone else. He might as well have gone, get to the chopper, and she'd have been, what the hell is a chopper?
It's a chopper.
My axe? What are you on about?
Yeah, get the chopper.
Chopper.
It's close. Hey, here's my chopper.
And a little wink. That would have done it. Get the chopper. And it would be, and maybe they couldn't have been French. They could have been Dutch. That could have been a nice touch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Pennsylvania Dutch. Okay. there was lots of nods. I think some of them went too far. They're just a little bit. I almost want to watch the movie pitch for this now that the guy does on YouTube to see, because he picks up on all these little things to sort of say, oh, they've done this and they've done that, and sometimes he goes a little too far. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he does with this. But I was not expecting this to be as good as it turned out to be. I also went in with the attitude of, all right, come on, we've had 5 other ones that weren't very good. Well, one that was terrible, everyone said don't watch, so I haven't. What are we going to get with this one?
I want you to watch that one now, though.
I will at some point.
I want you to do a reaction video of you live watching it. That's what I want. That's what I want for Christmas this year.
A reaction,
Steve's live reaction video to the Predators. At some point, you'll just be looking at the camera going,
WTF?
Yeah.
Why do you make me watch this, Pete? Why?
Yeah.
Why
is the person who co-wrote and directed this calling himself Shane Black, pretending to be the real Shane Black? That's how bad it is.
I don't. That's very disappointing, though, given how good he is with Iron Man 3, with Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, with so many other things,
and with just all the things he's written, and even before he was directed, just all like the Leaf Weapon and Last Boy Scout, just the things that he's written. It was just the script wasn't great. I saw it on the big screen, and I've never been so excited about something and then so disappointed about something ever. And he cried into popcorn.
Yeah, it's like me and the Matrix films that don't exist. There's only one Matrix film.
Actually, I haven't seen the 4th one.
I haven't. Apparently, it's also appalling, so I haven't watched that either. I'll get to it eventually. So
I think I got you mid-flow there. You were saying,
I don't know what I was saying. I'm sure it was not.
You weren't expecting to be this good.
Yes, that was basically it. I thought it was going to be okay. I didn't think it was as good as it was, and it was probably because they didn't try to do a straight copy of anything they'd done before, and they boiled it down to kind of its core premise, which I really like. I
think someone who hasn't seen a Predator film could watch this one first,
yes,
and enjoy it.
Yeah, it's an action movie. But the thing is, you and I are middle-aged men now of a certain age. Of a certain age. But there are a lot of people younger folk, kids, who won't go back and watch through the films, who just won't bother. They'll just watch this and be like, oh, that was quite cool. And then they'll find out there's some other ones later. And that's all right in this instance. They can watch it and it'll make sense. And if they like it, be like, okay, now go and watch Predator.
Oh, Disney Plus at the end of it when the credit. Yeah. I watched the second time. Watched the whole credits because I'd read that there was cave paintings over the end credits, and then there's more spaceships coming at the end. And I wanted to see that bit. And when I did that, it went, "We suggest you watch Predator," and just put the Predator up after it. So
yeah.
The old
they Netflix. Bought the lot
they got Fox, haven't they? So
so they got all of them now.
This was made for Hulu, wasn't it, in the States? But obviously all the Hulu stuff in the UK goes straight onto Disney Plus. Anyway.
Nice. Okay. So yes, but we got to watch it on Disney, which is nice. I think seeing this on the big screen would have been worth it. It would have been awesome.
I agree.
But we didn't get a chance to do that, unfortunately. But yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I'm not sure I've got anything else to add. Have you?
No, I don't think so. I think if you're going to make a film in this universe, this is the best way you could do it, and they did it really well.
So my fear is they're just going to keep milking the cash cow, like you said, and unless the script is good,
the Marvel and Star Wars problem.
Unless the script is good, it will end up being crap, like some of the sequels that we've had in the past. So they have to get it right again. They can't just be like, oh, now we'll do one in, Edwardian times, and now I'll do one in World War One, and now I'll do one during Vietnam. And it's like, we kind of had that already. So
Vietnam could work because it's hot, but it would be like the first film. Just
exactly. That's my point. It's like, it's too close to the, the dreaded Viet Cong and Charlie. And they're like, no, don't. We've done all of that. We've had that's too close to the first.
I think the next one's going to be called Predator Spring Break. It's going to be, that's quite hot, isn't it? Quite hot time. I like to see him just taking out like hundreds of university students on spring break, just down in Florida somewhere. He's just wiping out. That's just me. So these are just Nerf guns, man.
Oh yeah, that'll be fun. Water pistols and just kills everything.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do some scores.
Okay, who'd like to go first?
Shall I go first, Pete?
Oh, I don't mind. Should we rock, paper, scissors for it? No.
Sure. Okay.
Okay,
I'll go first. So I came in with you like the attitude of this needs to impress me. I'm a fan. I'm ready to shout online and say how shit it is, and it did. It impressed me. I thought it was really good. Some unexpected moments, one or two little niggles, but I was willing to let them go. Predator was really, really good. The special effects have obviously moved on a mile since the original, but even then, I can go back and watch the original now and still love it, despite the differences in technology. They kept it really kind of simplistic too in what they did. There wasn't masses of obvious VFX. I'm sure there were thousands of shots I'm just not aware of, but it wasn't blatantly obvious to me as someone going, oh, there's a giant wonky spaceship here and this, that, and the other, and it just looked odd. It was all really, really good. Made it a very human story at the heart of it again, which is what was important in the original. So I liked it. I thought it was very good. I'm going to give it a respectable 4 bags of action out of 5.
Okay. So I went into it the same way as yourself.
Mm-hmm.
First viewing, less bags than my second viewing.
Oh!
And the second viewing, I think I got past the, what have you done to my favorite film? And just went, right, what am I watching? It's the same premise set back in the past. I thought, we've talked about this, stripped all the things back and got the essence of it. I don't think there was any better way to make another film in the Predator world.
Yeah.
On that basis, and with some great action in it, some brilliant central performances, only one moment that made me cross, which we've talked about at length. I also am going to give it a very respectable 4 bags. It was a 3 bag on the first viewing.
Okay.
But on the second viewing, I would upgrade it to a 4. However, unless you've got Alan Silvestri's original score, you can't have a 5. Because that's the other factor in the original. And the original is I was listening to an interview yesterday with a musician, and he said everyone always likes the first album they heard by a musician, whether it's the first album they put out, the 4th, the 6th, they'll always want that. And the interview was like, well, why? And he said, it's your gateway. It's the same as comics. It's like whatever door you walk through is your door.
Mm-hmm.
So every other door isn't as good as your door because that's the door you walk through. You'll never recreate that moment.
No.
And we talked about it before, but like Predator was a film that I didn't see because I'm a bit of a wuss. And everyone in school, in pottery class, talked about this film with Arnie in it and an alien killing loads of people. And I was like, it's too frightening. And then about a year later, with one of my first paychecks, I went and bought the VHS underage. And it must have been birthday money. And went and watched it at my nan's house.
Excellent. Good old Nan.
On her VHS machine, and watched it and thought it was the greatest thing that has ever been made in history.
And you were right. You were absolutely right.
And they've managed to do something that's almost as good. And for that, I applaud them.
Well done. Okay. I think that's a perfect place to wrap up. So have you seen Prey on Disney Plus? If so, what do you think of it? Come on to the Facebook group and talk to us there. If you like the show and you want to support it, you can buy us a coffee on Ko-fi. So do that. We'll be back at some point. We're kind of doing this as and when we feel like it, but don't forget to check out the other reviews on our YouTube channel. We have lots of 5-minute reviews going up all the time, and there's lots of their films there for you to listen to our reviews and enjoy. But that's it for the meantime. So, Pete, do you want to wrap us up?
Thank you for watching, if indeed you still are, or if you don't have access to YouTube, for listening with your ears.
Good night.
Good night.